than 50 million. Call me when you have the money.
The head of security for an exclusive prep school.
Good morning, children. Today is a very special day.
Mastermind a foolproof plan.
You're nothing like my...
Huh?
Roadster, 37.
My first car.
Du virker still med.
First one had a 3024. That's my boss had one of those.
It's a 38 Rolls Royce.
The engine's probably running. These cars probably running.
Rolls Royce cars. We used to have packed the nurses.
There are no bodies in there.
They had the rollers. No, they had the rollers then too. And a Ford, out to Ford. We stripped it down, we did the whole thing all over. Yeah, the stainless steel, we had 610
Here's a
tubes.
Rambler.
You only go 80 miles. Then you get the horse and carriage.
Look at the upholstery.
This is an electric car? Phew. Originally 3,000.
I want to see where they
Wait,
get.
don't come down.
Huh?
Don't come down.
What?
15 for $380. Now, of course, you don't need thousands. Yeah. My boss had one of those. That was one he had a Stanley steamer.
This is a 1912 Buick.
I think we came from that way, Kyle.
See, they all got plates on horseless carriage plates. 1985 to 1980.
This is 34 Brewster. Look at those front ends on it. The headlights on it.
Yeah, you got to put bulbs in those. Man. We have guys in the garage, a couple of guys in the garage, drove horse and wagons.
How old are they?
Yeah, right. Slow.
A little box in there.
What the hell? That was a truck. Samson.
It's a child's hearse.
Huh?
It's a children's hearse. 1890. The white one.
They usually use white. There's a Jaguar. That's a kid's hearse. Children's hearse.
Look at the design on it, though.
What's the cat?
Look at the design.
Oh, yeah, they get a lot of stuff from here. Take big bucks. Kids.
1906.
Yeah, that's the rule.
It was incredible pocket of road and curbside in there. Probably the finest pocket of road and curbside I've ever seen.
Biggest slug I've ever seen. Now there's all here.
That's it. Wow. Somebody help me with these.
I just barely got through.
When I found out that the Alma King was going to stay in Colorado, I got the next best thrill of the whole operation. It was the satisfaction of knowing that not only did we find this incredible thing, but other people would now be able to enjoy it, to look at it and share in the discovery of this incredible Colorado treasure.
magnificent mineral specimen displayed before you is the largest and finest known crystal of rhodochrosite on Earth. Chemically, its composition is manganese carbonate, and it's presented here in its natural condition, uncut and unpolished. This is the way nature made it more than 30 million years ago. Rhodochrosite crystals of this size and quality are extremely rare and can be found in only a few places in the world. This huge rhombohedron, ROM for short, was recovered from a straight-home line 1/4 mile beneath a 14,000-foot tall Colorado mountain. It is a spectacular crystal. It's called the Alma King. In central Colorado, the Alma King was found after a tedious and expensive search in a mine that began its existence as a rather lackluster silver property in the late 1800s. Sticks of dynamite are now being loaded into holes drilled 6 feet deep into solid glass.
Seems to be everywhere. Life is varied and surprising. But all of life exists within a thin layer of earth and water and air, clinging to the planet as a fragile blue haze. We know now that once, before our time, before the time of mammoths, of dinosaurs, of the inhabitants of ancient seas, more than 4.5 billion years ago, there was no blue haze, no web of life, no trace of living matter. An ember in space is all it was. A chaos of crashing meteorites and exploding crust, of volcanoes belching steam and poisonous fumes. The cradle of life, it's hard to imagine, but the ingredients of life were all there except for one: water. Then, as the earth gradually cooled, it began to rain. For hundreds of thousands of years, it rained, till rivers ran and basins filled to overflowing. Some 700 million years after its birth, the planet was entering a new phase in its evolution. Look closely now, as molten rock cools and hardens, breaks, is ground to sand and dust, mingles with water. Familiar patterns form. Stripes, polygons, spheres. And on some sun-baked flat, energized by ultraviolet rays and lightning, the very atoms of rocks and gases join to form their own special patterns. Carbon-based molecules, the physical basis of all life, take shape. Washed in cooler water, they absorb nutrients. And suddenly, 1 becomes 2, and 4, and 8. Life began. Living microbes in slimy mats and crusts and humps kept the earth to themselves. For thousands and millions and hundreds of millions of years, for nearly 3 billion years. But this simple world was not to last. Come with us now, along the bottom of a shallow sea, some 600 million years ago, as we continue on our prehistoric journey.
We didn't get there yet. Where's Steven Spielberg? See how you measure up. Oh, you haven't even gotten to the thigh. You didn't even get to the thigh. This is the dinosaur. Fred Flintstone's pet. Oh, this is the tail. Oh, what a big tail. A pig? This is a pig?
Carnivorous pig.
Ooh, bad breath. Say, yeah. What?
Just took my license.
Yeah,
Well, you're becoming the next fix. That's right. Yes.
Disney.
According over to Warsaw Copy. You had the cards. Better. Electric.
I gotta give you electric cars.
They paid for it. They paid for it. They had it. Some people had it. That's what you pay for.
I thought the right, yeah, I thought you would want the front. It's just
You
as
got
well.
stuff set. You got stuff set.
The screen's too big. Split off the
You don't worry about shit. Look like a 220 or something.
Experience the incredible sights and sounds of the world's largest projection system. We ask that you remain seated during the entire performance until the house lights are up. Should you need to leave the theater for any reason and when the show ends, please exit carefully up the stairs to the doors at the top of the theater. We caution that once you leave the theater, you cannot be readmitted. Strollers collected upon entering the theater are at the top of the stairs behind the projection booth. Finally, no smoking, flash photography, or videotaping is allowed in the theater. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the IMAX experience.
On the windswept dunes of Kitty Hawk, fewer than 100 years ago, we first lifted into the sky. Forces that magically hold a plane in the sky. How do pilots like Sean Tucker and Patty Wagstaff train themselves to withstand G-forces that would make most of us black out? The magic of flight, coming soon to this theater.
west. He is making for the Empire State Building. Stand by for further reports.
If he goes up there, what can we do? We won't be able to get near him. There's one thing we haven't thought of. What? Airplanes.
Years ago, a French magician, Georges Méliès, made a great discovery. He found that there was magic in the movies. These illusions came to be known as special effects. From then on, filmmakers proved again and again that, on screen at least, anything can happen. The first bit of magic was also the most basic. From a series of still images, the illusion of motion is created. When the images are projected, one after another, the brain fills in the gaps between them, perceiving continuous motion where there's only a series of stills. That's how the movies came to move. But why stop there if seeing is believing? Why not use special effects to create the impossible? For decades, filmmakers took up the challenge until one movie changed everything.
1977, George Lucas created Star Wars. When the rebels battled the evil empire, a new era of special effects was born. Today, George Lucas is at it again. He's sending a film crew into the Arizona desert. Lucas wants to enhance some of the original effects in Star Wars with new digital technology. The goal is a special 20th anniversary edition of the Star Wars trilogy.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is the beginning of the glorious morning. Virginia. Pictures out. Come on.
In this scene, enemy stormtroopers are hunting robots R2-D2 and C-3PO on the planet Tatooine.
Hey, here we go. Roll tape. We're rolling.
First, the major action is filmed in master shots called background plates. Playing the stormtroopers are U.S. Marines, tough enough to work in plastic suits in 110-degree heat. This stick represents a stormtrooper atop a dinosaur-like beast called a dewback, as yet nowhere to be seen.
Okay, I'm coming right in here. Okay. Right about there. Good.
Of course, a beast as big as a dewback would have to leave dinosaur-sized footprints.
Hey, that worked pretty good.
The process may start in the desert, but it will end in a computer hundreds of miles away. Near San Francisco is the crew's home base, Industrial Light and Magic. There are dozens of relics from the past here, or the future, depending on how you look at it. It's a place where the extraordinary is routine. And the truly creepy are always welcome. Is a visual effects supervisor responsible for adding those missing dewbacks to the desert scene shot earlier. In the original Star Wars, the dewbacks never moved, but now George Lucas wants them to come alive. After all, what's a stormtrooper without a fleet-footed dewback? Special effects like these are possible because our visual system can be fooled. It's all a matter of perception. We perceive the world not only with our eyes, but also with our mind. Our eyes respond to color, form, light, depth, and motion. But it's up to our brain to combine these elements and interpret what we see. Take the way we perceive motion. ILM used it to create many of the special effects for Star Wars. The goal was to make ships in flight look more convincing than any others on film.
Stop.
Dennis Muren, winner of 9 Academy Awards, started out as a camera assistant on Star Wars. This model of the Rebel blockade runner is one in a long line of spaceships made for the movies.
Spaceships have been a part of the movies since the beginning. Méliès used a painted cutout sliding across the studio floor. In the 20s, the Germans built superb miniature ships for A Woman in the Moon. In American films of the 1930s, models were suspended on wires and manipulated like puppets. The wire technique was greatly refined in Forbidden Planet. The motion control camera was first used extensively on Star Wars, and it allowed us to create much more complicated motion with many elements in the same shot.
Motion control techniques turned this small model into a flying spacecraft.
If you use it this way, moving in this way, then we have to make sure we have enough detailing along here.
Yeah, up in this area here.
Yeah, and especially around the lights, this sort of detail around the lights.
The illusion of flight was created by having the camera move instead of the model. The illusion works because our eyes and brain perceive motion by noticing the changing size of an object. Watch how the size of the spaceship changes. As the ship gets smaller, it seems to move away. And as these asteroids get bigger, they seem to move towards us. On this giant screen, we're fooled into believing we're moving. ILM has taken on the even greater challenge of recreating the opening of Star Wars for the giant screen.
Yeah, swing it over. Probably.
Now we can forget all about perception and technology and enter the world of intergalactic warfare. Senior matte artist is working on another new shot for the special edition of Star Wars. A shot using this miniature desert town called Mos Eisley. He needs to make it look like any other town, populated by aliens.
The buildings are actually paint buckets and spray cans, but when they're all painted in the same color, the shapes end up looking like a real city. The models are built in 2 different scales. A smaller, less detailed one for the background, and a larger one that I'll use for the foreground. When it comes to using models, it's important to understand perspective and how to create a sense of depth. After scanning the photographs into the computer, I paint in the background and the sky. Then I place the bigger buildings in front of the smaller ones.
To complete the illusion of depth, Paul needs objects of familiar size, aliens. Volunteers from the ILM staff and their families, dressed in the latest fashions of Mos Eisley.
How do I look? You look good. You look like a doll. Thanks.
Their destination is a vacant lot that Paul has covered with sand. The camera is positioned at a height and angle to match Paul's photographs of the miniature city.
Another over there.
adds each alien character one at a time to the scene.
Our visual system is attuned to the real world. We have an expectation about the way things should look. When I add the aliens to the scene, the buildings seem huge by comparison, so it looks more convincing.
The final shot, only 4 seconds long, is repeated again and again to help judge its effectiveness. Special effects like these have taken science fiction from the realm of Saturday matinees into a new era of blockbuster action films. In the same building where Howard Hughes built the world's largest airplane, the Spruce Goose, 20th Century Fox is producing Independence Day, a movie about alien invaders attacking the Earth. On this set, an alien attacker ship is ready for takeoff. On another stage, a mock aircraft is filmed against a moving backdrop to simulate flight. On the motion control stage, spaceships are animated for the dozens of battle scenes. While in the model shop, meticulously detailed miniatures are built by a small army of specialists. This city destroyer ship is threaded with thousands of feet of fiber optic lights. In the final film, it will look 15 miles wide. Even at this size, it takes everyone in the model shop to move it.
All right, get the horses under.
The U.S. Capitol building is just one of the targets of the alien invaders, who have no respect for earthling architecture. Neither do the model makers, it seems. Here, the city of Los Angeles is hung on its side. So when it's hit by the alien wave of destruction, the flames shooting upward will look as if they're raging through the streets. On a shooting stage next door, a horizontal Empire State Building is awaiting its own grim fate. It took months to build the 12-foot model, all for one brief moment on film.
Cut! Roll cameras! And action!
The explosive experts, known as the Pyro Guys, are led by Joe Viscoso, who began his career modestly by blowing up the Imperial Death Star in Star Wars. Here, Joe's challenge is to make miniature explosions look like the real thing. Understanding chemistry and physics helps, as well as film history.
Thank you. Want to set those CO2s up in the corners, please?
I loved seeing all these old movies at the Saturday afternoon matinee, and I was surprised to find out that the explosions were actually miniatures done with models. Expert technicians like Howard and Theodore Lydecker were geniuses at choreographing a series of explosions all in one shot. That's what I was after when I designed the miniature bridge explosions for True Lies.
For Independence Day, Joe works for Volker Engel, the visual effects supervisor.
We designed and tested hundreds of explosions. Most of them were fireballs. Some of the effects are done in a different way, like using a blast of compressed air to flip model cars.
Speed! Action!
One of the film's biggest moments, a ship full of antisocial aliens descends on Pennsylvania Avenue to wreak havoc on the White House. Anna Forster, one of the visual effects cinematographers, checks out the set.
It's very exciting on the day we do the filming. It takes Joe and his crew 2 full days to wire the model for the explosives.
That corner there. Can we start? Let's start right here. Work our way down this way.
The blue-green light above the model simulates the light blast from the destroyer. We set up 8 cameras from every possible angle. We film in slow motion. If the fire and debris stay on the screen for a longer time, the explosion appears to be bigger.
After days of preparation, they're finally ready, with only one chance to get it right. There's one last safety check.
Okay, so everybody is going to be back at the far end of the grass, except for the active people who are going to be behind the shield. And Mark, you're going to be over in this corner. You and I are going to have a line of sight.
If anything should get away from us, we've got a water truck over here. We've got an 1.5-inch line hose. We'll all be set.
Okay, let's go back to our assigned areas. Let's do it. Clear. 1,002. Going hot.
Going hot.
We are hot and ready. Roll cameras. Okay, guys, it's going to be very loud. Fire in the hole. Roger, come on up. Speed! Speed! And action! Good. Okay, guys, let's put it out. Going on. Very good.
The explosion goes off without a hitch, but seeing it in slow motion is the real test.
Well, I gotta tell you, working on Independence Day was like a dream come true for me. But it's also serious business. And when it comes to this kind of work, we don't leave anything to chance.
This was just one element in the making of 400 visual effects. For a big-budget film like Independence Day, making the impossible seem possible is all in a day's work, and part of a century-long tradition. Another time-honored special effect is making a person fly, not to mention making him land. The illusion is still being refined. On location in East LA, basketball superstar Shaquille O'Neal awaits his initiation into the world of special effects. Inside, technicians prepare to turn him into a genie on a flying bicycle. The film is Kazam. At 7'1" and 300 pounds, Shaq is going to need some major magic to fly. Director Paul Michael Glazer gives Shaq his cues.
So, Shaq, let me see you really look over your left shoulder for I'm back. I'm back! Look more over your shoulder. I'm back! Take a breath, you can leave with it!
The bicycle is mounted on a gimbal, which can move from side to side. A wind machine adds to the illusion.
3, 2, 1, ready, and action.
You should be smoking. You know the rules. Now comply. Kazam! He got unlimited supply!
Cut!
Rhythm and Hues, the visual effects company, is using another trick by filming Shaq against a blue screen. A computer replaces the color blue with the background plate of the warehouse. The illusion is enhanced further with computer-generated effects. After months of work, Shaq is back. Only this time, he's flying.
I'm back! Take a breath, kid. You're going to need it for this. Don't get all hysterical. Say thank you for your miracle. What's the matter? Your tongue is broken? Time like this, you should be smoking. You know the rules. Now comply. Kazam! He got unlimited supply!
On the new frontier of special effects, there's no telling what's around the corner. Never know what's real and what's not. A wrong guess could be fatal. Fortunately, where the lion's tail should be is a pair of sneakers. They belong to Tom Woodruff Jr., the person inside.
And cut!
This animatronic lion, part robot, part Woodruff, was made for the fantasy adventure film Jumanji, in which a mysterious board game brings to life a menagerie of animals. Tom is co-founder with Alec Gillis of a company called Amalgamated Dynamics. It specializes in animatronic creatures and just about anything else you can imagine.
For Jumanji, we had the task of creating not only the lion, but a pelican, crocodile, and other assorted scary things. We wanted the creatures to be lifelike, but also a bit exaggerated, so we made them bigger. For me, working with the lion was probably the most fun because he got the strongest reaction from the actors.
Hallucination takes 25 servo motors and 5 radio receivers to move. It's a coordinated effort among 6 puppeteers who control some movements mechanically and others, like the eyelid, electronically.
Keep the head moving. And let's do a roar if we can drop down first. And roar. Turn it towards camera, that's good. Let's go ahead and close it down. Bring his head up, close the mouth, have him find camera. And let's drop it again, do another roar. Drop. And a roar. That's nice. You just have him bring his head up. Have him find camera with his eyes.
But as good as the lion is at roaring, it's just too heavy to run or jump. So a computer-generated counterpart was created by Industrial Light and Magic.
Bee-Walker.
This is what an animal stampede through a small town looks like without the animals. Director Joe Johnston and his crew first rigged the cars with wires to fall apart on cue. Then ILM steps in. At Marine World Africa, USA, computer graphics artists study real animals, like Judy the elephant, who's much too polite to stampede.
You know how many muscles there are in the trunk?
40,000.
40,000 muscles and tentacles. Oh, hi. Look at this. This is really interesting. It's wild. Whoa. That's great. It's got a lot more wrinkles in it. It's completely different on the bottom. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Every inch of Judy's skin is examined by the animators. Using computers to create digital animals is particularly challenging because our visual system notices subtle details of color, texture, and motion.
It's quite
Back at ILM, the animators create a three-dimensional wireframe model that can be imaged from any angle. Next comes the envelope of skin, in any color they choose, as long as it's gray. Like all colors, gray is initially sensed by our eyes as reds, greens, and blues, and then blended by our brain. But perception is tricky. When the color of the background changes, the color of the elephant seems to change too. And the placement of light changes the way we see the shape and the form. Animators like Ellen Poon not only have to worry about the way the elephant looks, but also how it moves.
Our elephant has to have the right attitude, the right rhythm and timing when it walks. All the qualities and behaviors of real elephants.
That requires further study. This is the finished elephant, called a synthetic. Unlike a real one, you can see it from any angle without risking your life.
We pose the digital elephant in precise positions to match with the background action of the street scene. When all the elements were put together, even I believe it was real.
By creating realistic-looking animals, Jumanji joined the pantheon of films in which digital characters and computer effects stole the show. Terminator 2, with its morphing villain. The Abyss, with its water creature. Man's best friend in The Mask. and the characters of Toy Story, the first feature-length computer-generated film. Today, in the Lucasfilm archives, you can still find many of the things that made Star Wars a turning point in special effects history. Some of our most beloved characters reside here. It doesn't matter if the characters are real or not, just that we believe they are.
No, R2, this is not the refined position I had in mind.
Whatever the illusion, it's a combination of science, technology, art, and imagination. Hollywood magicians know that it's all in the way we see it. In the world of special effects, anything can happen.
two bunks. One of them was dead. Two beds.
Nice room.
Let's have a look.
I like this. Keep the gun open. Yeah. You're supposed to keep your eye on it.
Your name, huh? Let's see. Let me see the thing. Ah, finally found the name.
Put it on tape.
She's been looking for that for a long time.
Let's take a picture of that too.
Take a picture of me bending down. This is my backyard. Right, Kenny?
What?
Wouldn't you like to have this view in your backyard?
Yeah. Imagine that. This is $1 million.
This is a B-52. They have a Thunderbird airmanship overlook, which gives you the views of the flying activities displayed on Academy airmanship programs.
Find these today? Yeah, I think the H models are still in the air. There's probably about 75 remaining.
Walk to the front. One's in the tushy of the plane. This is the front of the plane.
Seventh bombardment. No wheels on it. What if it landed in water? does that mean, those bonds? How many bonds?
Document everything. Yeah.
Once again, welcome to Ghost Town. Your visit will be an unforgettable experience, and we're glad you're here. About to take an unforgettable journey back to the days of the Wild, Wild West. Inside, you'll find a complete and full-size old Western town. Every authentic building assembled from across the West. Now preserved for generations to come inside this historic stone building. A century ago, towns like this dotted the West, hastily thrown up almost overnight. Word spread and still another gold or silver strike. It was an incredible and exciting time like no other in America's history. A time when fortunes were made at the turn of a shovel, or sometimes the turn of a card. When the gold ran out, they became ghost towns, leaving behind only a scattered pile of lumber or an abandoned mine dump. Today, almost nothing remains of this colorful period.
because the bell rings when it opens. On that table. Andy Joe?
The guy sold for credit, the other guy sold for cash.
Yeah?
They got a dummy in there.
Yeah.
That, they took them up. That,
Yeah.
they took them up.
Oh,
Put anything you want on it.
Felix the cat hikes on Lofty Pikes Peak.
There's floorboards and everything.
Donald Duck discovered his rich gold mine.
Read this one.
Take a look.
Rockaway?
That's what my cousin does. That's not Rockaway, it's Rockaway. That's 5 pounds.
That you asked me. I suppose I'll have to have a wedding present one of these days. Everything you buy now is out of sight. Lena, do you know what grocer Jake is asking for his store eggs? 17 cents a dozen. And coffee is up to 15 cents a pound. I told Jake he ought to get a gun and earn an honest living like any other hold-up man. He must be finding out that courting that widow Jackson comes high. But I don't want to pay for his courting. Now, Betty Jane, you don't need this line. All you do is talk, talk, talk. It's a shame nobody else ever gets to use the line. What did you say? I am not an old busybody gossip.
Is for you or your horse. Also, prescriptions are not accepted from any medicine man or the snake oil specialist at the Traveling Medicine Show. Also, I cannot guarantee cures for baldness in men and the gossip habit in women. If you ail or ache, you have come to the right place for relief. Even if you are not sick, this drugstore remedy can send you on your way feeling better than well. If you doubt these promises, just read the patent medicine bottle's label. Note how they guarantee cures from everything from dandruff to bunions and all else in between. No balky liver, no tired blood, no backfiring stomach. In fact, no interior or exterior troubles known to mankind and womankind can resist yielding to these bottled cure-alls. For my special remedies, you will need a doctor's prescription. I can guess at most any doctor's handwriting, but be sure the physician makes it clear whether the prescription is for you or your horse. Also, prescriptions are not accepted from Indian medicine men or the snake oil specialists for traveling medicine shows. Also, I cannot guarantee cures for baldness in men and the gossip habit in women.
Say there, Mr. Agent, I sure come to realize that being a postmaster ain't much fun for you. Why, it seems like folks blame you when they don't get a letter, and they sure do howl over paying 2 cents postage on a letter. It sure seems to me like you're so busy anymore, why, you don't even have time to read the postcards. You know what we ought to do? We ought to just go out, get a grub stake, and go out there in those hills and strike a bridge. I just don't see how we could miss. You know, I'm an expert when it comes to laying out the gold on these scales. I know an awful lot about the gold business. And yet, you know, something sure does puzzle me. You don't see any women up there digging in the gold mines or panning for the gold in the streams. And yet, more often than not, it seems like the women end up with lots of gold, either on their fingers or around their necks. These women must know something that I don't know. It doesn't seem like folks are doing a lot of complaining these days.
The Hawkins gal in the back pew last Sunday. Well, he never was real bright, but if he can see anything in her, he's not only not very bright, but need some new eyeglasses if you ask me. I suppose I'll have to be getting that Hawkins gal a wedding present one of these days. Everything you buy now is out of sight. Lena, do you know what Grocer Jake is asking for?
Well, Betsy, let's check out your little dolly, too. I mean, after all, Betsy, I kind of examined you, and now I have to check out little dolly. I guess little dolly is okay, Betsy. Oh, yes.
That when I lived in Bowling. We lived in a coal flat. Used to have black coal, ice, wood. Well, my house was bigger than that. Other than the problem, I had pipes over there in the wall. The gas, light the gas, they get light. I mean, we had electricity regular. That was before they had gas lines that came out of the wall. That's something.
Like back there.
Yes. That's what? Turn sideways, you'll disappear. Turn sideways, you'll disappear in that mirror. Look at that. See?
Oh, in there.
Perfect place to be hanging out, at the saloon.
Thought it's free. It's Sure, stop.
At first, there was only the land. The land. With its plains, its mountains, its deserts, its rivers, its forests. A land filled with animals, roaming unhindered across millions of square miles of the vast American West, many of them unlike anything else on the entire planet. It was a rich, untamed land, incredible in its beauty and grandeur. And then came humans. No one knows exactly when the first humans crossed from Siberia into Alaska, or even if others traveled to the Americas from other places. But as the centuries passed, those who came to be called Indians scattered across the land, formed into clans and tribes. Some roamed from place to place, following the buffalo and the seasons. Others developed highly advanced civilizations with agriculture and permanent homes that survive to this day. It was not an easy existence. At times, the land was their enemy instead of their friend. Droughts, floods, wildfires set by lightning. Disease took its toll, and at times they were their own enemy, beset by wars and disputes, unfortunately not unlike the rest of the planet. And yet they lived in harmony with the land and its animals, always deeply aware that their very existence depended on it. And then there were other men and women, mostly Europeans, settling at first along the narrow fringe by the Atlantic Ocean, gradually, inevitably, pushing westward as population grew. It was not easy, for it was a tough, impenetrable, untamed land, yielding its bounty only grudgingly to settlers and farmers. And above it all, there was the clash of civilizations, as Native Americans fought to retain their land and their way of life in the face of the unceasing push of the white man. A clash that was inevitable, perhaps, but often brutal and unthinking, leaving behind it a legacy of death and destruction that no one can be proud of. But even as the white man's civilization slowly spread beyond the original 13 colonies, the West, the land beyond the Mississippi River, was a blank. No one really knew what was there. With the stroke of a pen, President Thomas Jefferson changed all that, authorizing the so-called Louisiana Purchase, the purchase of France's claim to most of the land beyond the Mississippi for $6 million. Almost immediately, Jefferson authorized a series of expeditions into the new region to find out what the United States had really bought. The Lewis and Clark expedition journeyed up the Missouri River into the Northwest, an incredible feat, almost without parallel in the history of exploration. Lieutenant Zebulon Montgomery Pike explored the southern sections, pushing as far as Colorado and discovering the mountain which now bears his name. The mountain's towering snow-capped height was so much taller than anything he had ever seen before that he solemnly declared Pike's Peak would never be climbed by man. The reports Pike and other explorers brought back fired the young nation's imagination. At first, there was only the occasional trapper or fur trader, lured by tales of unimagined wealth. But within decades, settlers were beginning to make the first thrusts into the new land beyond the Mississippi. Yet the West was so vast, so unexplored, that men assumed it would take hundreds of years before the West was ever tamed and settled. One word, just one word, changed all that. The date, 1848. The place, Sutter's Mill, a crude frontier settlement in California. The discovery, a flash of yellow in the bottom of a pan. Gold. Within weeks, creeks and rivers around Sacramento were swirling with men intent on making their fortunes. And as soon as the news reached the East Coast, the stampede west began. Gold. By every means possible, thousands set out to make their fortunes. Never mind there were no roads, no reliable maps. By horse, covered wagon, boat around the southernmost tip of South America, even by foot they came, intent on only one thing, gold. But it did not stop with California. A decade later, the magical spell of gold fever sent new waves of adventurers westward, this time to Colorado. The discovery of gold along the Rocky Mountain foothills sparked a new gold rush, and by 1859, the cry of Pikes Peak or bust resounded across the prairies as thousands rushed westward, convinced they would soon be rich. During the next few decades, countless miners searched every stream, every valley, every mountain canyon, looking for the fabled yellow metal. Towns sprang up overnight as discovery followed discovery. Towns that were often no more than a jumble of tents at first, then taking on the shape of a real town if the discovery looked promising. It was a time like no other in America's history, a rough and tumble time, a wild and woolly age populated with adventurers and card sharks, and gamblers and gunfighters, and stagecoach robbers, and you name it. And the ramshackle towns they hurriedly grew up were like nothing else either. Places where fortunes changed at the turn of a shovel, or sometimes the turn of a car. They called it the Wild West, and that's what it was. During the 1860s and 1870s, men searching for gold blanketed the West, covering almost every nook and cranny in their frantic search for gold. One word, gold, accomplished in a few short years what many had assumed would take centuries, the settlement of the West. Civilization inevitably followed the miners, the adventurers, and the gamblers. They needed supplies, and clothes, and even, sometimes, haircuts. They needed transportation, and before long the twin steel ribbons of the railroads were opening the West to new waves of immigrants. And before long they needed schools, and libraries, and newspapers. Little by little, the excitement, the adventure, the raw spirit of the frontier died down. By the time gold was discovered in Cripple Creek in 1891, the frontier was almost gone. Today, almost nothing remains of those exciting days of the Old West. A scattered pile of weathered lumber, a tumbled pile of rocks marking an old mine, an occasional rusty wagon wheel or piece of equipment. The rip-roaring camps of 100 or more years ago have become ghost towns, inhabited only by the memory of a bygone era. An era marked not only by adventure and drama and discovery, but by courage, perseverance, and vision. No, the Old West is gone forever. But today, those exciting days still live here at Ghost Town in Colorado Springs. Assembled in two historic buildings and preserved undercover for all time, every old building in Ghost Town is authentically furnished just the way it would have been 100 or more years ago. Every building tells its own fascinating and authentic story of life on the western frontier. And even the large buildings housing Ghost Town have a story to tell. For once they were the repair shops for the historic Midland Railroad, which transported millions in gold ore from Cripple Creek to the old Golden Cycle Mill just up the street. The present Van Briggle Pottery Building across the way was once the Midland Railroad's roundhouse. President Theodore Roosevelt's celebrated train trips to Cripple Creek began on these grounds, right out where you parked your car. Yes, here at Ghost Town, you can relive the history of one of America's most exciting periods. Take time to see how different life was there, and take time also to reflect on the vision and courage of those men and women who tamed the American West.
Alive back then.
Me too. If there was a pig, it was
I think so.
And this is what the railroad looks like today. Whoa.